And thanks for your patience too. The Affordable Housing Committee meeting will now come to order. Can I have let's see. I'm going to go through the roll call. Sorry about that. I'm trying to see if I can do it with everyone on the list, but I'll just go ahead and call out the names of the people that are present. Alan, Hauser, am I on mute? Mendes?
We can hear you, Chair.
Oh, okay, thank you. I see the names on the list, but no one is responding, so I wanted to make sure that. Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Hauser. Mendes. Parker.
Present.
Sepulveda.
Excuse me, did you say Hauser a second ago?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I'm here, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sledge. Swara Isaiah Taylor. I know you just spoke. Toombs. Councilmember Toombs. Welch.
Present.
Yeah, thank you. Director Cooper, is it you or will it be Miss Hannah? Okay, Miss Zetney.
We're both here, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I have Hauser, Parker, Swara, Taylor, and Welch. That does give us quorum, right? I have those five.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Toombs is here.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilwoman Sepulveda.
All right, so definitely we have everyone.
Councilmember Sludge is here.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Slade. So I got everybody marked. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mendes is here now too. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. All righty, thank you so much. We only have one bill for consideration, and that is, I'm sorry, I need to do the motion for the executive order, so I'm going to read the motion. Pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 65 regarding electronic meetings, I made a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council, and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call. Allen? Hauser?
Yes.
Mendes?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Sepulveda?
Aye.
Sledge?
Aye.
Swara is aye. Taylor?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
And Welch?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carry. We have one bill for consideration, bills on second reading. It's BL 2020-456, Allen, Toombs, Bradford, and Taylor. Amends the Metro Code to require landlords to provide notice to tenants prior to termination of tenancy and non-renewal of a lease. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. I don't know if Councilmember Allen is joined us. If she's not here, Councilmember Toombs, Taylor, does any of you want to speak to that bill?
Thank you, Councilmember Swara. I do know that we've been discussing an amendment to this bill for a little while. I believe, isn't there an amendment that will be added?
I believe there's a substitute as well.
Okay,
There's
substitute.
an amendment to the substitute. The substitute's already been added in.
We've already added the substitute?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Mr.
There is an amendment in the packet.
I'll
All
move,
right,
this is Mendes. I'll move the amendment to the substitute.
all right. Second,
Second.
any discussion? And if Director Cooper, if you want to tell us what that amendment is, please.
Yes, the amendment is the result of discussion from the previous committee meeting. It adds some clarifying language that if the landlord assigns the rights under the lease, then they would provide the name of the new owner, the address, telephone number, and email address of the tenant's main point of contact, the address for the rent payments, and whether there's any intended termination of the lease. But the only addition that's being added in the amendment is to clarify that it's the address, telephone number, and email address of the tenant's main point of contact.
Okay. All right. So basically, I'm looking at it and it's saying so it will be the assignee or the assignee agent. So that is the amendment.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I apologize for being late. I'm here as the sponsor.
Right. Good timing. So is there anything you want to add? I don't see any hand in the queue.
Yeah, it sounds like Mr. Cooper explained it. I appreciate that.
All right. If there's no further discussion, then we'll go on to the vote. Allen?
Aye.
Hauser?
Yes.
Mendez?
Aye.
Parker? Sepulveda?
Aye.
Sledge?
Aye.
Suarez, aye. Taylor?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Welch?
Aye.
Okay, 9 in favor, 0 against. Councilmember Allen, do you want to move your substitute as amended? Councilmember Allen is not here, so can I have a motion to move?
So moved.
Thank you.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Now we're voting on the bill as amended. Allen? Hauser? Mendez?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
All right. Sepulveda?
Aye.
Sledge?
Aye.
Suarez, yes. Taylor?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Welch? Welch?
Aye.
All right. Councilmember Parker?
Aye.
Okay. And Allen? All right. The bill passed 9 in favor, 0 against. Thank you all so much. The other thing that we have, Councilmember Allen was supposed to put together a letter for Regions Bank. It's a letter just to thank them for supporting the affordable housing and donating some money towards that end. We agreed that we would do a letter just to acknowledge what they've done. I think it's the first time we have something like that. Since Councilmember Allen is not here to talk about it, I'll just let you all know that we will send it to the council office for circulation, so you all can just take a look at it before we send it out. But it's just a general letter of acknowledgement of what they did. And Councilmember Allen just came back. Do we have the letter to Regions Bank? All right.
I'm sorry. My battery died on me. Tell me what I missed.
It's all right. It's 6 o'clock on Monday. Time for everyone to go
That's
home.
right.
All right. So I was just talking about the letter that we talk about of acknowledgements.
Thanking them.
Thanking them.
Yes, that got written. It's on some computer. I do not have it ready to give to the committee, but I will have it for the next meeting. My apologies.
And if you want to go ahead and send it to the council office, they can then share it with all of us. We don't have to wait till the next meeting.
Okay.
It's just an acknowledgement letter, so we can take care of that
Yes.
via email.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you. So the next thing we have I have I sent an email that we want to look at the pilot program. I have Mr. Matt Wilshire and Mr. Kane, Joe Kane from MDHA with us. I do want to say that since sending out that letter, I found out a lot of things also, that a lot was done on the pilot program in the last term. I think that we just need to just talk about generally what is being done, where we are, and they'll share that information to us. My idea for wanting to do this is because we go through a lot of the pilot these days, and for those of us that are new, I think we want to have a good understanding of how the decision is being made. I also understand that we're just about finishing up the last batch of money that we have. We're about to start a new one. So that's why I thought this is the right time for us to, those of us that are new, to have that basic understanding. I do want to share with you that, again, a lot of work is being done, and out of respect for all the work that was done before, this is not to reinvent the wheel. This is not to, but to be able to have a good understanding, so that as we approve these bills, we know the process that goes in there. So at this point, I wanted to ask Mr. Wisher, Mr. Kane. I believe they're on the call. Oh, I do see Councilmember Mendez.
We see heroin fractures in the mid-foot area, and the doctor now saying that the president will probably have to wear a walking boot.
Who is? I don't know who that is.
We didn't get a good glimpse of it over the weekend, and even today when he was.
It looked like there's a news going on. Let me make sure my computer is not doing something. Wow. All right. Well, whoever that is, thank you for turning it off. Thank you, Councilmember Mendez. Do you want to say something, or you just wanted to let us know that? All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Wilshire, are you on the phone?
I'm connected to the computer.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm really just going to introduce this conversation. Joe Kane and Matt Loftus, who's also on from MDHA, are really the experts in this area. Their department, the Urban Development Department within MDHA, administers these pilots under an agreement. But this program is really the product of the council. The council created this program in 2015 in recognition of some challenges that Joe and Matt will talk about. And it has been an incredibly successful program. It is one of the most important things that's happened for affordable housing in this city in a long time. Has been a huge success. It's been a program that was created, and like a lot of programs, took some time to sort of work out the details on. The council came back in 2016 and amended the program slightly. And as you'll hear from Joe and from Matt, has really been a strong impetus. It's created a significant number of affordable housing units in Davidson County, some of which have already opened, others of which are still to come. And I think as you look around the environment, we still certainly have a challenge with affordable housing in this community, but some of the pressure has come off. I think in part due to the efforts of this council. The average price of a two-bedroom apartment has actually come down slightly over the last 18 months. Now, part of that is undoubtedly due to the pandemic, although interestingly, after an initial drop when the pandemic first started, there's actually been some price appreciation over the last several months based on publicly available data. But really what you see in housing, like any other product, is a mix of supply and demand. And there's been a significant increase in demand for housing, particularly for affordably priced housing for folks who are making the median wage or below. And this program has really done a lot to help create an increase in the product available, particularly for units for folks who are making 60% of area median income and below. And so I'll let Joe and Matt talk through the details of the program. My main message to you is thank you. Thank you for creating this program. Thank you for partnering with MDHA to execute it. And thank you for the impact that this council and the council before it have made in bringing more affordable housing to Nashvillians. So we'll give a brief presentation. I think, Slade, if you haven't already, please give host permissions to Joe so he can share content, and we'll answer any questions you have after the presentation.
right.
It's all you, Joe.
There. Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. Yes, thank you. And you hopefully can see my screen. Is that working as well?
Yes.
Thank you very much. For those of you I have not met, my name is Joe Kane. I'm the Director of Urban Development with MDHA. Been there for about 25 years. So we have seen a lot of changes, and we're very glad that this program came into existence when it did. As Matt mentioned, it has done a whole lot to assist with affordable housing in Nashville. So with that, I would like to go on and give just a very brief overview of what a LIHTC is. This is what we issue pilots for. A LIHTC is the abbreviation for Low-Income Housing Tax Credit. Those are tax credits that are actually issued by the Internal Revenue Service. The Treasury Department issues those out, makes an allocation annually to the states. Tennessee, the allocation comes to THDA, the Tennessee Housing Development Agency, and then they offer the credits available on a competitive basis throughout the state. So credits are, they make applications, developers make applications, and are allocated a certain amount of credits depending on their application and how competitive they are. Those credits are typically sold to a third-party investor who needs the tax credits for their business. So usually large corporations, sometimes banks, other people with large tax bills are in the market to purchase these tax credits. And depending on how the market is, the credits can actually be sold for, we have seen them for a time actually go above $1 for $1. Those are rare. Most of the times they're selling in the 95 to 98 cents on the dollar type of issue. But the credits are purchased by a third party. That developer then takes that cash from the sale of those credits and invests it into the development of the property for affordable housing. In exchange for getting the credits, the developer must enter into a land use restriction agreement. You may have heard of those called LURAs before. That is an agreement whereby they promise to make the property affordable, and currently they're making them affordable for a minimum of 15 years. They're typically taking the agreement to make them available for 30 years. And with those agreements, the tenants must meet income levels, and the rents are maxed out as to how much rent they can charge for each tenant. So this goes a long way to making affordable housing in Nashville. Why do we need pilots, and what do the pilots do? Well, of course, you know about pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. The property actually transfers over to MDHA. And therefore becomes tax exempt. And MDHA enters into an agreement with the developer. That agreement is presented to Metro Council for approval. But that pilot agreement works as a tax abatement for the affordable housing development. We can only be done for properties. MDHA only has the authority to do this for properties which have received low-income housing tax credit application credits awarded. Excuse me. And so what happens is oftentimes if they do not receive a pilot, they are subject to being taxed by the tax assessor based on the market value of the property. That market value could be the market compared to a similar property, any market rate apartment, and you would think that they would argue that, hey, the value of the credits, the value of my rents are so low, it shouldn't be worth that much. But the actual credits are issued to the developer, and while he sold them, they are still considered. And this goes back to a judicial ruling that requires the tax assessor in Tennessee to count the income from the credits against the property. And so that skews the potential property taxes and makes the property essentially unfeasible to be constructed without a pilot. And what that pilot does, obviously, by reducing property taxes, it reduces the overall operating costs for the project and makes it a feasible property. As Matt mentioned, it was authorized by council in 2015. We had a program established, a cap was established on the property. We amended those program rules with working with, actually Councilman Mendez was instrumental in this at the time in the previous session. As well, we put a cap on these at $2.5 million for a pilot abatement, for which we are authorized to enter into those negotiations subject to council approval. When we receive a pilot application, we review that project and we estimate what it is possible of paying for on taxes. We want them to pay the most in property taxes that they can. We review that at the staff level. We take this to our board also, who reviews that. The planning department is reviewing where the location of the property is going, make sure it's being developed in accordance with the plan for Metro, and it goes to Metro Finance, who reviews those as well before it comes in front of this committee, a Budget and Finance Committee, and the full Metro Council for consideration. Excuse me. The key points of the program. The project is, we mirrored our pilot program to mirror THDA. THDA gets their requirements from the IRS. THDA then applies some additional requirements onto those programs, how they can work, and we tried to mirror ours to follow along those rules. We established our tax abatement for 10 years. If you noticed previously, we said the affordability period that these developers are required to have are typically 15 years, oftentimes up to 30 years, where they keep them affordable. We cannot abate taxes below what the pre-development value is. So there is a baseline of taxes that are always there. Each one of our pilots have steps in them as well as far as pilot payments. And so the amount of taxes that they're paying each year is increasing on the annual period during the 10 years. One thing about LIHTCs, which is very good to ensure affordability, is, as I mentioned, these are essentially IRS. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, you have the IRS to come back and hammer in that people didn't do what they were supposed to do. But it's also monitored by THDA. MDHA does monitoring on all the pilots as well to ensure that the properties are affordable. If the developer is not following the rules, MDHA has the ability to terminate the lease effective immediately, which would put the property back to market rate property taxes. So there's some guarantees in there that the property remains affordable for what we are doing. How the pilot is calculated. I believe this was one of the questions as to how we come to establish the value of that. We require the developer to submit as part of their application their 10-year operating pro forma on what the property will generate. And we review that against other properties that we have previously been submitted to it. We also review it to properties that we have reviewed in the market elsewhere to make sure that their costs are running running similar to other projects of similar type. And we determine how much can the property be developed without a pilot. And if it must have a pilot, must have some operating expenses reduced, what's the minimum amount that we can reduce their operating expenses to still make the project financially feasible? You'll see here on this last bullet that there are three main variables that impact how much what the size of the pilot is and how it impacts the pilot agreement and the pilot payment. There are two types of credits that can be received from THDA. One of them is a 4% LIHTC credit, which puts actually less money into the development. And then there's a 9% credit, that puts more money into the overall project. And so that makes a big difference on what is on what their operating expenses would be, or what their actual cost of construction is, because the value of the sale of those credits go in as part of the development, as part of the development to offset the costs. Also, we're seeing substantial differences in whether it's new construction or whether it's a rehab. We're also looking at other public subsidies that are going into these properties, and that goes in to help offset the overall construction costs, which would then make it available to pay more in property taxes. Those other public subsidies would include home funds from MDHA or the Barnes funds that are allocated through Metro as well. And so we take it into account the full bucket of funds and every level of funding that is going into these projects to make sure that the project is financially feasible and also to make sure that it is sustainable. The pilots that have been approved to date, this is a little table summary that we have. There have been a total of 22 pilots that have been approved since the inception in 26 weeks, since we ran the first one through in 2016. There have been 3,000, a little over 3,000 new units constructed, and almost 1,400 apartments have been saved and tagged as affordable for long term. So we did not lose affordable units, that either the restrictions had come off of those or that they had the potential to flip, as everybody knows today. And as your bill just discussed that you approved, to have the possibility of flipping units that may be affordable in the market, that these were purchased by low-income housing tax credit developers to make sure that they remain affordable. So there's a total of about 4,500 total units that are done. About half of those are currently are occupied or will be occupied by the end of this year. The other half are still under either renovation for the rehab units or new construction, which is what was approved this year, was mostly all new construction. So those are a summary of the pilots. You can see the abatements, what they average, and we explained earlier how those kind of vary based on what type of tax credits they received and also what type of project is actually out there. The individual pilots, you may have seen these. This is just a summary of each apartment building and the total number of units. I have a little map here that kind of shows where they are scattered about. We are in 13 different council districts with our pilots right now. So they're spread out a bit. They are, again, each of these are reviewed by the planning department to make sure they are consistent with the plan there. They're also consistent with our consolidated plan that we submit to HUD. And a lot of these, I'll go ahead and maybe talk a little bit about these, where they are selected. Again, they are selected through the application process with THDA for tax credits. THDA every year revises their application. That is done by THDA's board. That board is appointed by the governor, and it's a statewide board. And so there's not a lot of control on it locally from what can be done. We have worked very hard to try and make Nashville be a prime place to go for tax credit projects. But every year, the state does what they call a qualified allocation plan every year and opens that up. And it's scored by points. You fill out and you actually do a self-scoring on it. And certain areas score better than others in order to get the points needed to be able to get the credits. And so it turns into a bit of a chess game as to where a developer would want to put a project, because that's where he would score the most points. So that's pretty much a summary of what we have. We have, and I'll be glad to forward this on to everybody that's attending, so they will have this presentation as well. We have links to the legislation. links to our application where we do our pilot reporting. They go into the state comptroller office every year as well. And I do have a couple photos of some projects before I open up for questions that I want to kind of share with you. This first one is a paddock at Grandview, new construction. It was a great project that was done out north off of, I want to say off of Dickerson Road on that. I hope I speak correctly.
Trinity Lane.
Trinity Lane. I knew it was north. It was, sorry. Thank you for that. The next one is Old Hickory Towers. That was a rehab, one that Freeman Webb had. It was a previously a LIHTC, and they went and got additional credits and did a full rehab of the whole building, and did a great job with that. That was one of the first pilots that were done with that. And another one that I have is Hermitage Flats. They just recently finished construction out near I-40 and Old Hickory Boulevard in Hermitage with that one. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you both for that presentation. Appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you're doing on affordable housing. And I'm grateful to the prior council, to the previous council, for the work that they've done. So I'm going to start out with a couple of questions, and then I see there's a lot of people that have questions as well. So one of the things that I asked in my email is that, are we able to support? I know that people have to go through the THDA. Those are the people that we consider for pilot based on the presentation. So is it everybody that wants to do development in Nashville that got the light credit that we're able to support, or do we still have a situation where we're not able to support everyone?
We have not turned away anybody yet. The slide, one of the slides in there indicated how much capacity that we were doing each year. Is typically we had not, we have a capacity of the 2.5 million. We typically had not exceeded 2 million. This year got a little higher when the budget was passed, and we went backwards in time after the budget was passed, and we recalculated what those early pilots would have been. And it created effectively about a 20% change this year. So while we're up at about 2.4 million, we normally would have been around the $2 million number. Don't know if we're going to need it or not. We do know that we have the ability to come back to you. Our program was set up by resolution. We have the ability to come back and ask and say, hey, we think these projects need it. But not knowing that right now, and not knowing how THDA is going to be making its allocations each year, it's a little bit more difficult. But as of right now, we have not needed to turn anyone away.
Okay, thank you. And I said that the allocation is 2.5 million. So you already said that this year we're at 2.4. So without coming to council for more money, that means that we're at the end for this year. Is it based on an annual year? Is it based on our fiscal year of up to June?
It is based on a calendar year. We base it on a calendar year. It's $2.5 million a year. So every year it could be another $2.5 million. And it's like I said, it's been working well.
Okay. All right. That's one of the things I wanted to check. If it's calendar year, then we're good up to December. Then we start again in January for another calendar year.
And I will interject here a little bit. It's in between the time an application comes in to us at the staff level and the time we review it, negotiate a pilot agreement, present that to our board and get it to Metro Council. There's at least 60 days in there, maybe 90, depending on when things are submitted and how it works. So we have a little bit of forecast to know how our capacity is doing.
Okay, thank you. I have some, but I'll go to other council members. Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks, Chair. So I just, I think
last term, I was sort of the chief council member who was pushed with help to work with MDHA and the administration to round out this program. So I just wanted to add a little perspective. So this program got created by legislation before the 2015 election, but then there were no projects approved until after the 2015 election. And so when this first came to the council, maybe at the beginning of 2016 for the first time, it hadn't been tried out yet. And MDHA worked, and the administration, where Mr. Wiltshire worked at the time, worked with us pretty extensively to update the policy that they were using at MDHA to consider programs, and the feature where planning substantively reviews it and finance substantively reviews it got added after conversation between the council and MDHA. Because we were concerned in the council at the time that those departments, which are important for this from a money point of view and a planning point of view, hadn't looked at it. So now they look at these programs substantively. I ended up concluding that this was about as robust a program as we have for affordable housing of anything that we put in place last term. And just one example, there's a Trevecca project that was on the list that Joe put up. There was 564 units. And we had clear comments from the owner of the property. It had been a family that had owned, I believe it's a retirement community, Towers near Trevecca in Councilman Sledge's district. One family had owned the towers for a long time. They'd been affordable, and it was time for them to move out of the investment. And there really was no way at market that somebody was going to keep the building affordable, and it was going to be a loss of 564 affordable units. And it was only through this program that that was able to be retained as affordable in Councilman Sledge's district. And the fact that we know as a council that in addition to MDHA's vetting, we've got TDHA's, THDA's vetting, and that these applicants have to jump through the hoops to qualify for the LIHTC tax credits, gives us a level of assurance on the process that the project is legitimate, that is frankly unparalleled in anything else we do on affordable housing. I'm glad that you're having this meeting today, because the first one or two of these that came to the council at the beginning of this term, a few of our colleagues were referring to this program as a quote giveaway to developers. And with all the work that got put in by MDHA 2 councils ago, the last council, to add the checks and balances, make it so this is the farthest thing from a giveaway to developers. And on the for fiscal hawks, the fact that it's limited to $2.5 million per year is an active choice by each of the last couple councils. 2 councils ago when it got created, it was at $2 million. The last council increased it to $2.5 million. And we pretty regularly ask the question that you asked about making sure that it was right-sized for the needs of the community. And so far each year it has been. So I want to just add that because this was pushing on this program was a pet project of mine for 1.5 years at the beginning of the last term. And MDHA really has been very responsive through the life of this program to the council's thoughts and needs about how to best apply the program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Hauser.
Thank you. I actually have multiple questions for some clarity. What does LIHTC stand for?
Low income.
That is low income housing tax credit. That's the IRS program that is the competitive program to receive tax credits to assist in the creation of affordable housing. The program goes all across the country.
So is it low income house tax credit? Is that what the initials stand for?
Yes, ma'am. Low income housing tax credit.
Okay, great. And then I think I heard you say that a developer could use Barnes funding and the pilot funding on a specific project, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and one thing that would be really helpful for me and might be for others is I have never seen an example that says, developer John, it's going to cost X dollars to build this project. If he doesn't use any credits or any assistance, it would cost X dollars if he uses these. And then on the operating cost, the same thing to show this is what typical operating costs would be for this project annual basis, what the operating cost would be after using this. I think that type of specific clarity would be, I know for me, very helpful. It might be for others as well. And then the last thing is, how do we get this information out to the community for developers and individuals that might be interested in entering the affordable housing market? They may have a heart for this, but they have no idea what's available. What kind of marketing or community information is getting out there to folks to say, if you're interested in doing this type of project, these are resources available? Because I don't really see that information as readily available as I think there might be more people participating if they knew the specifics of how it would impact them and how they could access it.
I will be glad to share that information with you. I will quickly, on a couple of points, the development cost, the cost to construct, as you saw from a couple of those photos, these are essentially, there is no difference between building for the market and building for affordable. The program has gotten so competitive across the state that everybody is building these and across the country, everybody's building these with very high quality. And so where the pilot comes into play is with the operating cost, exactly, because it lowers taxes. But I'll be glad to share one of those with you on that as it goes through. And as far as advertising these, unfortunately, the pilots are, and property taxes, as you probably know, are all required by the state, and to start to forgive taxes on projects is very difficult. It started in 2015 because that's when the state authorized MDHA to be able to even enter into these projects, but they could only be entered into if they had received low-income housing tax credits. And so that is a limiting factor. And THDA is well aware of our program, and for any applicant who is making an application, because you must go through THDA in order to receive a LIHTC. And people who go through THDA are well aware of our program as it exists. But and we do have it on the internet, but we can certainly get you some more information on that.
And then are these only multi-family units, or are these also for single individual standalone houses?
These work for multifamily. It's a bit of the nature of the beast of how THDA has created these.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I think, Councilmember, basically, if I understand well, is that in order to be able to do the pilot, you have to do the LIHTC first. And so the first place to direct developer will be to the THDA. That's where the process starts. And then once they meet that criteria, then they can then do the pilot. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes, that is indeed correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That leads into my question, which is, we continue to hear from for-profit builders that they would add to the affordable housing stock if we could create some kind of tax abatement for them. Would it take state enabling legislation, or do we already have tools in place where this could be expanded theoretically to some mixed income projects if they would be willing to set aside some percentage for for income limited tenants at, at the 30, 60 or 80 or 100% AMI at the 30% income level for that. Is that a possibility that we can look into, or does it not even exist until we change state law? Joe Kane.
You have asked a question that is near and dear, I think, to everybody's hearts who is on this call. With MDHA, the pilot program, as is set out, must go through a LIHTC. That is not to say that, are there other avenues that can go down? I mean, that's one thing that we are always exploring and trying to work out. And that's one thing that I believe Hannah Davis is working on as well, to try and figure out some ways to be able to put together multiple, from multiple angles, ways to make this work and to assist this, because it takes all sorts of layers to be able to pull together. And that is one that we are definitely interested in being a participant of, anything we can do to assist that. But right now, depending on which roads you go down to, very well may require some enabling legislation from the state, or we may have some that's already set up somewhere else that we can look through.
I'd love to follow up with you on that, then. I'll give you a call offline. Thanks.
Thank you. Joe, does that mean that for-profit developers do not qualify for LIHTC? I'm looking at the website. It did not say you have to be non-for-profit developers. So if LIHTC is available to for-profit developers, why can they not just go to THDA? Or is there something that is making them not?
They can go to THDA for the low-income housing tax credits. Again, THDA and the rules that they have in their qualified allocation plans sometimes make it more beneficial for the entire project to be affordable and not to have mixed income in it. And so there are other rules that play with where a for-profit developer goes, hey, I can do it this way today in this market, and I like this way better.
Thank you.
And Chair, let me just add to that real quick. I mean, the LIHTC process, as you discussed, is available to both for-profit and nonprofit developers, and we've assisted both kinds of developers, both for-profit and nonprofit, with our pilot in conjunction with our LIHTC. However, if a developer is interested in adding on their own volition some income restricted units, as Councilmember Allen was discussing, but wasn't seeking a LIHTC to support them to help fund that program, but willing to do it on their own, we have had some conversations with folks who say, look, I don't need the LIHTC up front to help my capital stack, but what I absolutely need would be, if I'm giving up some revenue, right, by only charging $1,000 for this unit instead of $1,800, right, I'm giving up $800 of rent. I can't do that. My pro forma doesn't work. But if you were to do a tax abatement for me, and whether that's, some percentage of that $800 of rent they're giving up on a monthly basis, they might be therefore able to do that. And that math is what's tricky. There is the legal enabling legislation that Joe was referencing that would need to be addressed. But we think sort of operationally, you absolutely as a council could consider introducing some more income restricted units into developments that are otherwise just market rate units. This is something that the prior council did with the housing incentive pilot program, which was sort of like a cash payment that exists, and you all still have it today. A tax abatement, a pilot for these market rate units might be a way to attract additional developers to that program. So something we would certainly be supportive of, and we would need to figure out what role MDHA should play. But we think the success of this program really does speak to the ability for this council to help create more affordable housing by using tools like this.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think it's worth looking into. I do think that one of the conversations that we we add one of the things that was mentioned by Councilmember Mendes is that one of the reasons why the pilot is also successful is the fact that there's the extra screening by THDA and the IRS, which is why the LIHTC as a prerequisite gives some level of comfort before doing the pilot. And so in the event that we want to do something similar without the LIHTC, then we'll have to think about way to make sure that there's accountability and that extra layer of scrutiny or calculations that goes into. But I think it's definitely worth looking to and worth discussing and looking at all the layers. So I look forward to that conversation as well. Thank you. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Chair. And thank all y'all from MDHA for presenting today. This has been super informative. One question that I have is sort of about the back end of these LIHTC terms. So when, let's say, a property, typically we see that there may be not in the best state of repair toward the tail end of these credits. And, I know that through THDA, there is a program whereby these properties are offered for sale at a reasonable, quote unquote, calculated price. And the reason I've been kind of digging into this is because we had an expiring LIHTC property in my community that sold to a private developer who didn't go through and renew the LIHTCs and renovate and just sort of keep things rolling. We're not really sure what the plans are with that. But anyway, when I looked into the process of what that fair market determined price from THDA was, where it would sell to another affordable developer, if I remember correctly, it was something like the building sold for $18 million, but the fair market determined rate was like 32 or something, like just considerably higher, just much, much higher. So that process, one thing I'd want to know is, do y'all know of any example where someone actually purchased a building to keep it affordable through that THDA program? And then the other thing that I wanted to know is if that program is sort of not producing the result that we would like, which is preserving existing affordable housing units, is there anything more we could do as a city to help nonprofits or for-profit developers purchase and renovate sort of these expiring LIHTC properties and keep them affordable? That could be for Matt.
You're asking something that I don't know completely, and I probably know enough to be dangerous. I don't know, Matt, if you know a little bit more about that and would like to take this.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was deferring to you, but yes. So, Sean, actually, interestingly, Councilmember Mendes did speak to one example of where a developer stepped in. Now, they did a new LIHTC application, so I'm not sure that's directly addressing the situation that you're describing. But there are a number of instances where developers will come in, do a new application on LIHTCs, and renew a property. So the rehab for Hickory Towers was an example of that. I think there's another one, Sycamore Terrace, which may have been an example of that as well. One thing worth mentioning that Joe talked about in his presentation, because of the competitiveness for 4% LIHTCs now, most of the new projects that are coming online are actually, THDA is requiring them to agree to re-up themselves. So even if they trans, the affordability period is actually going for 30 years, not 15. Now, all of that being said, Sean, Councilmember Parker, you are absolutely correct. There certainly are instances for LIHTC projects that were done, say, 12 years ago. They may be coming to the end of their affordability period. And those properties were built in areas that are very attractive, right? And because the areas have appreciated, a developer may look at that and come in and say, look, I could buy that property. The affordability restrictions have worn off. I could buy that property, put in whatever, 20% of the cost of the project, and all of a sudden it's a super fancy market rate apartment, and turn that over. I mean, those market dynamics are incredibly difficult to counteract. what you really, in many instances, I mean, each situation is different. It's its own situation, right? So it's sort of a case by case basis. But I think THDA extending the compliance period requirement to be 30 years is making a huge difference. But for those that exist today, and Councilmember Allen is very aware of a very high profile case where James Robertson Towers across the street from Hume Fogg had its affordability period expiring. Developers sold it to a hotel. This was a little bit different. It was a PBRA contract. But just the market dynamics were such that the property was just so much more valuable that they were willing to walk away from that. The owner at the time was willing to walk away from that affordable housing contract in that case. So I am not, the short answer is I'm not giving you a specific answer because it depends upon the property involved, right? Is the gap 5 million? I've actually had conversations with some affordable housing developers that even, I mean, you and I can speak about this offline, although I'm happy to talk about it now, but there was a private for-profit affordable housing developer that does LIHTCs that looked at buying a couple of properties that were, I guess what I would describe as marginal, meaning like they were in areas that were developing, but it wasn't like they were in the Gulch, right? They were in areas where the rents were moving up, and they claimed that in those instances where they were willing to come in with a LIHTC renewal, they missed by, I think one example was $8,000 a door, right? So in a 200 unit property, that's whatever, $160,000, if I'm correct, on a purchase price. So, you know, in that kind of situation, if there had been some sort of low interest loan or zero interest loan, even if it's not forgivable, but some way for the city or some interested party to contribute to the capital stack so that developer could have bid up their price a little bit more, they could have, you know, bought it instead of a market rate developer buying it and then retain the affordability period, re-up it for another 15, or in this case, maybe another 30 years. So yes, you asked, are there tools? The answer is yes, you can construct any tool you want. It's just a matter of what the appetite is of the council to invest in these types of projects and properties. And we'd be happy to discuss those with you. They are certainly complicated, certainly, you know, is subject to exactly what Councilmember Suara was saying. You got to have lots of checks and balances, and Joe and Matt Loftus, who works with them, you know, or somebody is going to really need to do a good job of checking the numbers, the financials. But yes, there are tools. They are used in other jurisdictions. They are complicated, but there are certainly instances, at least the one example, I mean, there were a couple examples, but the one example I just shared with you that this developer shared with me about they missed by $8,000 a door. That's the kind of thing that we could, you know, as a city explore continuing to do or explore doing in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allen, do you have another question?
Yeah, just a comment. Thank you. And Matt and I have worked on this, asking MDHA to do an inventory of all the project-based rental assistance multifamily housing that they have, just so we could keep an eye on it and know when it's coming close to the end of the contract, to be proactive, to try, because I think everyone knows that it is much less expensive to preserve existing housing than to try to create it from scratch. So I'm wondering if it would be helpful for every council member to be given a list of properties in their district that are worth keeping an eye on, because often they're the first ones to know if a developer is interested, and perhaps they could steer that way. I mean, I would be interested to hear if Joe and Matt have any thoughts on if we could be part of the team to help keep an eye out for opportunities and work with y'all on that.
Councilmember, you have been the sentinel on this, keeping a watchful eye on it. And yes, we would be more than happy. We actually have a list of all the LIHTC deals and all the PBRA deals that exist in Davidson County. And I think I don't want to overcommit here, but I'm fairly certain we can easily share those with each of the council members and put together a note to alert them. I don't know if we know when exactly the contracts are expiring, but I know that we've got a number of them that we are monitoring. And so I can follow up with you and with council members on that as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a great idea. And also as a committee, I think that it would not be outside the purview of this committee to keep an eye out too on a general basis. So I think we as a committee will be interested in that data and work with other council members. I think that's a great suggestion. So I don't see Councilmember Parker. Your hand is still up. Is that from before?
My apologies. Yes, that's lingering.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hand up. I want to thank Matt and Joe. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I want to thank the council members for being here. And this is a partnership. We still have a lot of need for affordable housing in our community. We're all scared of what's going to happen as COVID winds down and eviction and markets. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about all of it. So there's a lot for us to do. And so if there's something that we think of, we'll reach out to you. If there's anything that we as a committee can also do to work together. You've had so many suggestions and so many people reaching out. So let us know. We want to do this together for our residents. And so thank you all so much. If there's no other comment, I want to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all so much. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.